it's not a good sign when you decide that you want to play pickleball.
Is it a kind of like a start of a midlife? You know, like once you buy the,
Oh, no,
if you
no,
go into the office and you have a pickleball racket, it's like a bit of a red flag. Is it a big day in the Tierney household, World Water Day? Do the boys and, your wife, do you talk about it? Or I guess you're involved in water every day. Very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the stream. An unscripted, unedited, free-flowing conversation featuring guests who reject the status quo with a bias fraction in the world of water and beyond. My name is Tom Freyberg. I'm an environmental journalist and content creator specializing in water.
And I'm Will Sarney, a water strategy advisor and investor, doing my part to solve wicked water problems.
And to recap and summarize the last season, season 8, which was focusing on legends, we're delighted to welcome Brendan Tierney, who is the global head of water banking for Raymond James, a long-term partner and sponsor of the podcast. So, Brendan, great to see you again, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, and thanks for allowing me to pay to be on your show. I appreciate that.
Hey, Brendan,
nice money goes a long way.
Hey, Brendan, we don't do pay for play, okay? That's not what we do. You got here on your own merit, regardless of the sponsorship dollars. Let's just clarify that.
That is the best opening line of any episode we've ever had. That's great.
It was either that or saving the best legend for last, and I knew that wasn't true, so
come on.
You can revisit that one.
So I know we want to sort of like riff a little bit on this truly unscripted episode. In fact, all of them are unscripted. But Will, I think it'd be nice just to kind of reflect on maybe some of the guests and the conversations we've had. I know we're kind of 8 seasons deep into this. We've had different themes of seasons before. We've looked at the Colorado, we've looked at agriculture. And for this one, we wanted to kind of go with the legends theme, right? Individuals who have sort of made a kind of personal, professional dent in the world of water throughout their careers. So we kind of, riffed a little bit on legends. And yeah, I think it was one of our most successful, right?
I completely agree with you. It was very different, a real departure from what we've done historically. And certainly, if we go back to season 1, we were very focused on tech, sort of unusual suspect. I thought this was really refreshing in a lot of ways. These are people that we were joking that we know, but have been around for a while and have a brand. Yet my biggest takeaway personally was I thought I knew this person. I having an hour with them or a little bit less and really getting to know them better was probably the most rewarding for me. I mean, really. There
were certain individuals that I thought I'd known from perhaps inviting to an event to speak or kind of doing an interview with them. But again, you're only sort of touching on surface issues. But the beauty of what we've discovered with podcasting is it gives you that freedom of speech and the length to really dive deeper into those topics.
Yeah.
And I think the episode, with Cody, was amazing. I mean, Colby. He's never going to forgive me for getting his name wrong. Colby Manwaring. What a great start to the recap. Can't even get the names right.
Tom, I think it's great that I say that, we just got to know these people a little bit better in different ways that we didn't know them, and you mispronounced the first name.
Yeah, we got really to know them. We got to know them so well we can't even get the names right. But I mean, the Colby, not Cody. Apologies, Colby, if you are listening. Yeah, I mean, what an amazing story, right? Built Innovize, sold to Autodesk, $1 billion acquisition and sale. But beyond the headlines and the quotes and the press releases, he kind of went into the details of being on both sides of the fence, acquiring companies and then being acquired, which was super interesting because normally you hear the perspective from one or the other. But and then he sort of, when it comes to building a team and integrating different cultures, and we really sort of, I love that conversation.
Yeah, Brendan, it just struck me that I imagine you run into this where you know people by reputation in the industry. I mean, you have a really good read on the on the sector, but once you get into doing a deal, you really really get to know them.
Yeah,
Fair?
it's a pretty interesting dynamic, right? So when we enlist a client, maybe it's somebody like a Cody, right? Tom?
Cody, yes. Yeah.
uh, you know, we have likely had significant interaction prior to that mandate. And so it's more of a courting process, right? So we're getting to know him, he's getting to know us. We're trying to determine, or he's trying to determine whether or not they want to partner with us in this sale journey. And frequently, when it does work out, we are then sitting across the table from other parties that are going to be looking to marry our client. And so there is a bit of a matchmaking style or theme to investment banking. And it really starts with your client and then leads to suitors on the other side of the table, whether it's Xylem, Badger, Veralto, SAR, Grundfos, you name it. And so it's very important for someone in my position to make sure that we understand the personal dynamic in addition to the industry dynamic.
So Brendan, it strikes me that that's pretty much your personal style also. I mean, you really do get to know people, and I'm not blowing smoke or anything, but it's that getting to know people in the world of water. Big investment of time, but pays dividends when you have an opportunity to do a deal with folks that you've invested a lot of time in. Fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, all deals are built on trust.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't sit across the side of the table looking face to face or across the Zoom or Teams or whatnot, and you don't have that underlying trust, and in some instances, the buyer and the seller don't know each other, but if I can be that conduit of trust, then I can bring stabilization to a deal. I can bring more ease and more likelihood of success in making sure each party is equally unhappy when they get to the finish line.
Sounds like a divorce.
But presumably, I mean, there's some of the juggernaut sized companies you mentioned where they've been through multiple acquisitions because you've built that trust. You're helping them not just buy one company, but go on to buy other companies, right? As part of like an acquisition strategy. So building that relationship with the same team is a really important part of what you do.
Absolutely. And continuity within those organizations also helps, right?
Yeah.
So, for us, it's maintaining a deeper relationship than just a business development person who's there to field M&A opportunities and really to get out into or within an organization, such as Xylem, where, there is a core brain in and around M&A. And then you've got key operators, whether it's Snay or Rodney or Alcho, you need to know how to navigate that in order to make sure the message is met and that the right ears are, picking up the signals.
Very good. Yeah, I like the analogy of the matchmaker, essentially, connecting the companies together. But when you sort of, I mean, you've been supporting the podcast for quite a few seasons now, Brendan. So were there any episodes in this season that kind of stood out for you that you listened to? And obviously there were a couple more focused on M&A and growing businesses, but any kind of reflections or favorites from yourself? Hopefully you listened to a couple of them. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course, but
well, obviously, I think if I did not do investment banking, I probably would have done something a little bit more lighthearted and fun. And I always find Christopher quite entertaining. And so I'm heading over to the Global Water Show in May, and
Oh, good.
so hopefully we'll see you as well. But I always look forward to hearing what Christopher has to say and the podcast was certainly up to snuff, and so appreciated that viewpoint. Andrew Benedict, obviously, have known him for some time. Even participated in his recent IPO a couple of years ago. Have grown to respect him as an individual and his kind of visionary from more of a, what I call a educated, engineered type person. I think he called it a professor-like attitude, but he brought that to the water world, and I thought that was really fascinating. His journey and his humbleness was really neat.
Yeah, he describes it as like a kind of accidental entrepreneur, right? Kind of academic, and stumbled into running a business and then grew it. And then between, selling xenon to GE and then before Energia, went back into academia and sort of, yeah, I mean, we see it all the time, right, Will? Just not just with Andrew Benedict, but other kind of entrepreneurs. They go through the cycle of growing, selling a company once, and then what's next? Like once you've hit that plateau, they're not going to go and work on your golf handicap and be happy, right? They need the next challenge, the next purpose, the next thing to build. And I think that was quite clear with Andrew after a huge bit, being almost the godfather of positioning membranes as a key component of driving water use, to then going into seeing energy in water resources with Energia, right, and anaerobic digestion. But I think it's what I've learned from all the great entrepreneurs and leaders within water is kind of, it's never one and done. It's like, what's the next thing? What can I move on to next?
To that point, I would say that one of the observations from everybody is that these are people that are not slowing down. They are not saying, I did my time, I'm going to go play golf or pickleball, God forbid. These are people that are, pretty far along in their career, and they just are so committed, so passionate about it. They love what they do. It's really just different phases of their career, as opposed to, I did my time, I am now done. I want to collect stamps. Nothing against collecting stamps, but
I might go as far as to say, Will, that this is, I'll use Andrew as an example, but engineering, creative thinking, water, that is his golf.
Yes.
My dad,
yes.
Right.
My dad was a doctor, and he practiced until he literally couldn't. He's about 78. And, I always said, you don't have any hobbies. And his hobby was hanging out, getting coffee, eating donuts in the emergency room. That was fun for Dad. And so I think it's the same thing for Andrew, that there's comfort, there's curiosity.
I think that's also validation that you've chosen the right career, right? That actually your career and your purpose is your hobby, is your life, because you're so dedicated to it. You don't, obviously, having downtime and playing golf for, by the way, what's wrong with pickleball? Well, I'm kidding, of course, but
okay. Do you guys play pickleball?
My local gym has just started a pickleball club. Yeah, I haven't joined or started, but it seems to be all the craze, right?
Okay, so this is my 2 cents on pickleball.
Yeah.
It is, it's not a good sign when you decide that you want to play pickleball.
Is it a kind of like a start of a midlife? Like once you buy if you go into the office and you have a pickleball racket, it's like a bit of a red flag.
I think it's a signal that you can no longer play tennis.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Do you guys
I played tennis for years? I'm starting to play pickleball. Paddle. Yeah.
Do you guys have a paddle or padel over there as well? It's like a condensed court. Yeah, it's like a condensed court with kind of glass sides, normally in doubles. I played it for the first time with some Dutch colleagues, actually, for a business meeting. We were meeting a new consultant and we knew he played tennis, so we booked a paddle court. Yeah, it's great fun. But having come from a tennis background, that we had a clinic and the coach was watching, and I thought, hey, I can hit a ball. My hand eye's pretty good. And this young coach comes over, looked about 15, and said, Tom, you play tennis, yeah? I said, yeah, yeah. Hitting these huge forehands. He goes, forget everything you know. And it was almost like, you don't need that skills. It's a completely different game to tennis. But
Okay, I'm sorry I went down this path. I love pickleball. But I want to pick up on curiosity
mm,
and, no one's slowing down. I, like your dad, Brendan, they'll undoubtedly do it until they can't. And a key driver, and this came up with Andrew, which I thought was really just refreshing to hear. He's curious. Like he is staying curious. And I don't know how old he is. Well, I knew, but I forgot because I'm getting old. But like he's just curious. That is this
mm.
profound driver for him. And I think that was another universal trait of, the legends that were on the show, including you, Brendan, by the way.
Well, I think it's something you almost lose in from childhood to adolescence to being a grown up paying the bills is that curiosity, right? You think how many questions every day my kids ask me. It's so curious about the world, and naturally, as you become more mature, you tend to ask less questions. But I think the people who are legends or very successful, they continue to sort of question the
Yeah.
world and challenge the status quo, as we call it. And I think that curiosity is a common theme. And the other thing that we discussed with Professor Dragon Savage, right? Arguably one of the leaders in hydroinformatics, linking water and data and digitalization, was the theme of luck. Do you remember, Will, where he talked about taking a certain decision and people say, oh, you were quite lucky. And then we said, well, you can actually increase your chances of luck by being more open to opportunities and taking a gamble. And then it sort of opens the chances of being hit by the asteroid, so to speak.
I, you know, during that conversation when he was talking about luck and,
Mm.
these pivots in his career, I was reminded of one of the great Yogi Berra quotes, which, Brenda, I'm sure you're a Yankee fan, right? That's a joke. When you come to a fork in the road, take it. And Dragan, and I believe everybody we talked to took it. Like they, not, I don't know if they were fearless or what, but they just had this gut feeling like, yeah, I'm going to go do that. I don't know, Brendan, what do you think about that? I mean, with all the people that in the world of water, is that sort of a common thread, you think?
Certainly from the entrepreneurial side.
Hmm.
Look, I was too much of a chicken to take that risk. But I do respect those that are willing to explore and feel, right? And,
Mm.
with three boys, and I keep bringing it back to family, but you learn a lot because I'm either working or I'm with family. And, the one thing I would say, just having done a decent amount of reading and listening to my wife, who's done more reading than I have about kids development, is that parents today don't let their kids feel enough. And so,
Oh,
not going on a soapbox, but the one thing I'm very good at is letting my kids feel, just like I did. And so, I think the more you feel, the more you don't get let down, you get more re-energized and you redirect it in a different path that may lead to success the next time. And it becomes an iterative game.
right. That's really a good point.
Do you think
Resiliency.
like failure, right, and embracing failure is an inevitable part of the innovation journey? And no doubt every single one of the guests we had parts of their career or something they tried that didn't work out, yet we don't often sort of talk about it or normalize it, do we? But inevitably it's like you say, and it's great to teach your kids that you've got to pick yourself up and bounce back and kind of that's what drives resilience.
100%. 100%. And there's a guy, pretty famous guy, who started making cars. And we were not going to say his name on the show, but he is he is famous for having failed a number of times. And he may be failing again, but we're going off in a different direction. But
Hey,
he is a great case study for someone who just followed his heart and his intuition. And if you've ever read his biography, it's pretty fascinating. And I think that's another good example. There's just a lot of good examples, even outside of water, where the entrepreneurial spirit coupled with an invigorative spirit, just a go get it type of attitude is pretty neat. And so hats off to the legends on the show this year for sure.
Yeah, said individual car maker, he had he still has, right, a time in launching a space company. And if you look at the iteration of getting that to work and the amount of rockets and things that blew up and didn't work, and then if you look at one of the many recent achievements of, the rocket that could land and actually with the arms that enclosed it, like from an engineering point of view, it's incredible, right? I know we don't want to go down the path on this podcast of certain political and leading figures. So again, we will not mention his name, but I think we all know who we're referring to, Brendan.
Let's go back and talk about Kobe. How's that?
We've got to be careful because soon people will start calling him Kobe. But yeah, so Brendan, what's kind of next for you? I mean, you guys have been incredibly busy, right? I see your post announcement. Hey, it's a done deal. Another kind of M&A you've helped to secure. So how do you sort of look at the sort of year ahead? There's obviously political headwinds and we're in a bit of an uncertain time, but water seems to be, in terms of company values, seems to be holding its own.
Yeah, so it's good to know that the LinkedIn propaganda is working.
Hey, the algorithm works. Whenever you post something, I see it. So
excellent. We have been blessed. It has been a good last 12 months. I'd be lying if we didn't start to see some headwinds in light of some macroeconomic uncertainty. Selfishly, we are starting to feel a lot better about US-centric businesses. We're working with a business now that happens to be USMCA compliant, and that's just through their water treatment technologies, they are tariff exempt. And so some water companies do qualify for that exemption from a revenue perspective. Now, you still have some supplier issues at the current time, but it is, in often cases, pretty de minimis depending upon how much steel or other things are used in your equipment. But on the equipment side, there's been very good strategic demand from the larger consolidators in the space, whether it's here or in Europe. There's still appetite for growing through acquisition. And truthfully, the US market, it really is the most attractive in terms of just overall size, profitability, and potential. And so all parts of the world inherently would like to get more access to the States. On the services side, outside of products and technologies, where those large strategics feel as though if they miss an opportunity to buy a product or technology, they may never get it again. So that's really holding the line on valuation for products and technologies. On the services side, what we're seeing is more interest from private equity firms who want to insulate themselves from, perhaps more global affairs and want more dependency on critical infrastructure in and around water, stormwater, and wastewater, where spending is non-discretionary, albeit in some respect funded by municipalities, states, and government. But in general, the M&A environment's it's pretty good. I'd give it a A- over B+.
That's really interesting. Well, that's a good sign. That's a really good sign.
It's
So we're
interesting to hear that private equity are looking at water as the insulator, because as you mentioned, there are certain assets and companies where payments are non-optional. Did you see? I mean, we're talking about some of the people we featured, but it was a couple of weeks ago. Christopher did a post, and it's gone pretty viral. But he said this is what a tariff-proof stocks look like, and we can share it afterwards. But he showed American. I had to bring it up as a reminder, but American water and essential utilities over the Wednesday and the Friday during the crazy period, and then the S&P 50, which kind of dropped off a cliff, to sort of show actually these two utility-based stocks were outperforming the rest of the market. It was quite an encouraging. Normally, you never hear the positives about kind of water investments too much, but it was really encouraging.
Yeah, it really speaks to the essential nature of managing water systems.
Right.
There have also been a few reports that have come out of late that are elevating the profile of water. I think, of course, there was a global commission on the value of water, one more of those. That was interesting. And have you guys seen the GlobeScan report that came out? WWF GlobeScan?
I have not.
We'll send it to you. Brendan, really, really interesting. They interviewed 30,000 people, about 30,000 people in 31 countries. And they had subject matter experts and other stakeholders. Really interesting in terms of, what was top of mind. And water quality was at the top of the list. I thought was, really, really interesting. We tend to talk about scarcity, but this was really drawing attention to poor water quality as a critical issue among stakeholders. It's a good report, really good insights.
Yeah, please send it to me.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, so between the value of water report that came out, that was the infamous one that said that the hydrologic cycle was being disrupted by climate change. No surprise there. But it was in print, and then WWF, I think it was last year, maybe early in the year, I had the economic value of water to the global economy, and it was what, $58 trillion?
$58 trillion, yeah.
Yeah.
Total economic value. First time water's been actually had a price put against it, right? Yeah, 58 trillion.
Yeah.
I think it was around, recently we've had March 22nd, where the whole world talks about water, being World Water Day, and there were no end of reports that came out around that time, right, Will? I think we need more reports in this sector as well.
It's my favorite day.
Is it a big day in the Tierney household, World Water Day? Do the boys and your wife, do you talk about it? Or I guess you're involved in water every day, so it's probably part of the conversation, right? But
the only one who'll listen is my 11-year-old.
Okay.
Oh, hold on
I
to
think
that.
I've got him for about 12 more months, and then it'll probably be the dog and I celebrating on March 22nd.
You have 3 sons?
3 sons and a dog and a wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got 3 sons. It was quite the journey. It still is quite the journey.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Then
a
you're gonna
good
tell me it
thing.
gets easier.
Oh, no. I think too highly of you to lie to you. I won't, but
well, what is
an
it they
excellent
say?
example.
Small kids, small problems, big kids, big problems, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I keep being told that I'm hanging on to the it will get easier as they
Oh,
get older. But Brendan, I have one in that sweet spot as well, a 10-year-old, where wants to know about the stream and water and things I do, and then the 13-year-old, bless her, yeah, she's gone.
Exactly. Couldn't be bothered.
Yeah.
Couldn't be bothered.
So to sort of look forward, I guess, beyond the political headwinds, the next season we're kind of wrapping up things on the legends is we're going to focus on nature, sort of water and nature and the impact. I know, Brendan, we've had a few ideas of kind of guests and themes, and yeah, Will, maybe we could just riff for a couple of minutes on why we think this kind of connection with nature. Why did we want to sort of cover that in the stream? because we've done the sort of geography, we've done the people, and now, yeah, I think this nature thing is going to be quite big, right?
Well, yeah, that is our smart ass crack on water and now nature. It seems to be our tagline. So I'll dive into it. What we're seeing is that companies are beginning to understand that biodiversity loss and decline of ecosystems is a material risk to their business. I mean, how many corporations, industry sectors rely upon biodiversity? And so that's one piece of the puzzle. And then, and there's some info in terms of, number of companies that are launching nature strategies, nature positive. But also we're seeing some companies start to think about how do you merge, rightfully so, a water stewardship strategy with a nature strategy. And that makes sense. And then what I've also heard, in particular from a friend colleague, is that it's easier to get people to understand nature than it is water. Water's invisible. Everybody, like, whether you like to be out in nature or not, they sort of kind of get it. So from an internal corporate narrative, nature resonates more than you would think so. And then we're also seeing, there's a venture fund that was launched that's just focused on nature tech, superorganism, which is a little bit of a plug. But all those data points are really, really interesting on the corporate side. And, the intersection with utilities. I mean, healthy watersheds matter to both utilities and the private sector. So how do we think about this more holistically than we have in the past? So is that enough of a rationale, Tom, or?
I think that's a very perfect, articulate, succinct teaser. If people don't like and subscribe to the channel for the next season, then
my flashcards really helped with that. So.
Amazing. Well, I know we're going to be sort of firming up some of the guests, and like you mentioned, looking at topics like nature tech and dedicated funds looking in nature, some of the big corporations that have got a strategy on nature tech, so nature alongside water stewardship. So we're going to look at it from quite a few different angles. But yeah, really looking forward to kind of diving deeper and having great sort of meaningful conversations on that. But yeah, well, again, thanks so much, Brendan, for your support over the years with the stream, and for giving us free reign to kind of letting us do what we do best and just have fun. And yeah,
Absolutely.
Hopefully this is not the end, Brendan, after my crack about pickleball. So
sounds good. Well, it came down to either sponsoring your show or getting a light so that my face could be visible on podcasts. But you guys won. I feel like I'm in the witness relocation program right now, but no, it's been an absolute joy. I think you guys do a wonderful job. You attracted an amazing audience. We're going to sum up your season with your help in our next newsletter, which will be out in about 3 weeks, and super excited about next season.
Sounds great. And we'll see you in Paris.
Oui.
Should we organize a game of pickleball in Paris? I'm kidding. But
I'm trying to get I'm trying to get rowing lined up.
Oh, amazing. So, okay. Count me in. Obviously they've done a lot of work on cleaning up the Seine, yeah.
If you have life preservers, count me in.
Oh yeah. Personal flotation devices, PFDs.
Count me in.
All right.
Let's make it happen. Gentlemen, thanks so much.
Take care, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.